This land is your land, and this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I went a-walking
Whitstable High Street, I saw above me that endless skyway I saw before me.
Será vencido de pie cantar que vamos a triunfar, avanzan ya.
In the women's liberation movement we did a lot of sit-ins, we did a lot of squatting, taking over unoccupied houses to house homeless women.
Canto y tu bandera florecer, la luz de un rojo amanecer.
Yeah, well, I would describe myself as an artist and activist. I have in the past. I remember a particular one, the Elizabeth Garrett Anderson Hospital, where we blocked the road, on Euston Road in London, and the traffic tailed back for miles.
Nuestra felicidad y en un clamor, mil voces de combate.
It was easy. It was as if everything was on our side, making it so fantastically scene-free as an operation that it was almost meant to be.
De gigante gritando adelante, el pueblo unido jamás será vencido, el pueblo unido jamás será vencido, la patria está forjando la unidad.
April the 15th, Sunday afternoon, through the doors of just a few selected residents came an unsigned, undated letter from a contractor. And the letter said that work was going to begin on tree and vegetation clearance on the Cromwell Road embankment. We all thought that it was illegal to do any tree felling within the bird breeding season.
You will fight them on the beaches and the oaks and the sycamores. Yay! Following, 3 women: Julie Wasmer, aged 59, Frankie Hewitt, aged 63, and Jean Fraser, aged 66, are exercising their democratic right to peacefully protest against Network Rail's policy. This protest takes the form of we 3 women chaining ourselves to a single tree on the lower part of the embankment, away from the tracks.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock on Monday the 28th of May. This is Breakfast from BBC Radio Kent with Claire MacDonald and John Robb.
In the program this morning, 15 former patients.
I'm normally a really confident person, but I got up and I realised that all my limbs were like jelly. I was really worried that my confidence was leaving me at a time that I really needed it. And I hoped that the protest would attract a large group of people in their hundreds. But I feared that it wouldn't, and that actually the protest might consist of 3 middle-aged women who had chained themselves unreasonably to a tree with very little support.
It's a wildlife corridor that runs right through the heart of this town. It's the bird breeding season. Over there is Alan Johnson of the RSPB, an organisation that has tried relentlessly to make Network Rail see sense. Will they? Absolutely no way. The harder we've pushed, the more intransigent they've become.
The parties, united, will never be defeated.
There must have been about 30 people there. I still wasn't sure exactly how many people were going to make it. I was really hoping that we would have over 100. 150 would have been fantastic. I'd actually been briefing the papers that there would be 200. But by 8 o'clock, there were 200 people there. And by another half an hour on, the media had started to turn up, and there were 250 people there. And there were kids dressed as birds. There was a gorilla turned up, Mr. G. O'Rilla, he gave his name as. He climbed a tree, and shortly after that, I got word that Channel 4 News were on their way. I was wearing a t-shirt that said, I am Spartacus, in the great tradition of rebels. Somebody had suggested that if the police were after me that day and wanting to keep sight of me at all times, that the others were going to turn up in t-shirts which all said, I am Julie Wasmer. So I thought that was particularly apt.
Right, are we all going to sing, everyone? It's rather early in the morning. Anyone remember that? This land is my land. From the railway bridge.
And at one point we all sang a song. We sang the old Woody Guthrie, This Land Is My Land. Somebody had customised the lyrics to include local areas. And as we started singing, I just felt myself welling up. I was just really moved to tears because by that point there were so many people there. There had to have been 250 people there. People had been already in the car park for over an hour at 8:30, and I realised that I didn't want them getting too restless. But I knew we had to get into place before 9 a.m. So Frankie Hewitt, Jean Fraser and myself, we slipped off back to the house and pretended we were just going to have a pee. We came in, got ourselves ready. We were pretty nervous at the time, wondering if anybody would actually see us heading out of the house and follow us. But we managed to get out of the house.
I was quite nervous at first. And because I've got arthritis, I was worried, just about the climbing and things like that might have been involved. But in fact, it was fine. We just took it easy, and it was very comfortable once we got settled in.
But, one of the questions from the Whitstable Times was, do you think you should have been doing it? And my answer to that was, yes, why not? I'm a citizen, I live here, and I'm not just going to sit in my house and wait to die because I've got lung disease.
So it was a case of getting to the tree as quickly as possible, getting the chain around it, and getting the padlock on and getting settled, losing the key before anyone spotted us. I also wasn't sure whether the train would actually go all the way round the tree, which would have been disastrous if it hadn't, but it did. What's beautiful about this particular protest was we chained ourselves to a tree. 3 feet away from us was a set of railings, and the two representatives of Network Rail, John Burrows and John Cooper, were forced to come to that railing and negotiate with us. And that was a beautiful moment.
Inspector Ed Walden, BTP. Can John have a word with you here now and just explain to you what he intends to do?
Yes.
But will you engage with him?
Yes.
But before they do anything.
But he's not separating me from the group.
No, it's all right. I'll have a chat with you.
We are the group. He can address the crowd. He can address us all. But if he wants to address Frankie or Jean or me, he can do so now.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not stopping him.
Yeah.
Is there a representative this side of the fence?
I can talk to.
Why can't you talk to
We've
the
just
road
answered
offence?
the question. We are a community. There is no way.
Yeah, here's John now.
There is no way for you to operate the same divide and rule principles which you did right from the beginning. You go on training courses for this sort of thing, John Burrows, and I have been at the mercy of them. It's a divide and rule tactic, I'm afraid, and it isn't going to work anymore. We are a community, and 3 women, 59 years old, 63 years old and 66 have had to chain themselves to a tree on your embankment to get your attention and to get you out from behind a national helpline.
At one stage it seemed like Network Rail were trying to hive you off from the rest of the community, but you weren't having any of it, were you, really?
No, certainly not. Well, for a start, that would have meant me unchaining myself from the tree. But when they knew that wasn't going to happen, and that I was in fact relaying everything that they were saying to me to the crowd via my megaphone, they began getting very frustrated.
You can't go off camera. This is the people you have to address. What are you playing at? How can you separate him out from the rest of us?
I'm very willing to address
I'm counsel for Cromwell Road, okay? So I feel that I can have a discussion independently and then come back and relate the...
No, absolutely not acceptable.
You're very welcome to be part of that.
I want you to address these people here. You keep shunning us and treating us with contempt. Well, we won't be treated that way. Address everyone here, please.
The problem, Council, is if he doesn't tell us what he's going to do,
Mr. Burrows?
Arrest him. Arrest him for assault. We saw that. Arrest him.
Arrest him for assault,
Arrest
officer.
him.
You got plenty of
Outrageous. Who the hell do you think you are?
To the community.
Do you think this is the third world and you sell oil? Wow. Outrageous.
I had a feeling that as soon as Burrows and Cooper came to the railings and asked if they could talk to either me or somebody else on the other side of the railings, they needed to put a lid on the publicity. To have a national news station there filming everything as it was going on was a really bad move for Network Rail. From that point, I knew that they had to put an end to our protest. The only way they were going to do that was to actually listen and address our demands.
Yes,
When they first agreed to our first demand, which was the immediate halt to any tree felling until the end of the bird breeding season, they didn't really want the rest of the crowd to know this or even to hear it, because naturally that was going to be followed by an incredible cheer, and what they were trying to do still was manage the publicity for that day. Nevertheless, I had my trusty megaphone with me and I relayed that to the crowd.
And what's happened is it's come out of the press department and it isn't paying any attention to the fact that there are 3 women chained to a tree. What that statement is saying is that Network Rail made its decision because an independent ecologist came and walked trackside with them. Now what we've heard is that that ecologist did not come down on this bank. He was only allowed to walk on the upper part of that bank and felt incredibly uncomfortable doing so because he said that to Julia Seath. Now, I suggest that this is all a bit of a stunt. We are here and
The only thing was, we then needed to get another demand met because we couldn't trust Network Rail, because we knew they had broken promises to us over the last 5 weeks when they promised us important documents. They hadn't come through. That time we had to apply for those documents under the Freedom of Information Act. We couldn't trust them, so we had to get commitments from them in writing.
No work till the end of September.
When the email came through from Network Rail, In no part of it did it specify that the work was being halted until the end of September. It merely mentioned that after a thorough report from an independent ecologist, work would be resumed at a later date. Well, this was wholly unsatisfactory. But so we insisted. We said we were going to continue the protest. The press would remain, the cameras would remain until we got a confirmation in writing of what was told to me at the railings. I was made aware that people were viewing footage already of what had been taken and getting a transcript of that and emailing that through to Network Rail. And that's what we insisted on having written up and returned to us in agreement by Network Rail. It was as if everything was on our side, making it so fantastically scene-free as an operation that it was almost meant to be. I couldn't believe that they had capitulated so easily. I couldn't believe that as a group we coordinated so well together, and I couldn't believe how the whole town had turned up that day to support us, and that really did give us the confidence to just stay on course and not move from our determination to extract what we wanted from Network Rail that day.
Over Whitstable.
That single moment when I knew that the email had come through and that verified that we had what we'd always been seeking, that justified all the long, dark nights of the soul we had spent, all the hours we'd put into this campaign, all the disappointments, the frustration. Suddenly it was all worthwhile.
Yeah, they turn up, I think. Why the rest?
Viva Whitstable!
Are you exhausted?
Yeah, I'm a bit tired. And the adrenaline's just finally running out now.
And we'd done it as a people's protest, as a people's movement. It was a fantastic feeling. Can you imagine? This is a monolithic company that is accountable to nobody, not even ministers. We had been in touch with Norman Baker, who was a transport minister. Nobody could tell Network Rail what to do, but 3 women chained to a single tree with a collective age of 188 had managed to climb a fence and bring 2 important representatives of Network Rail to a railing and extracted exactly what this town had been seeking for 5 weeks.
Well, I think there's a real continuum between the human species and wildlife and green spaces, and I think green spaces, wildlife corridors, those kind of places in any community are central to the health and well-being of that community. So it felt like a really major issue, and it's not just our area, it's national, it's happening everywhere.
But I hope, that Network Rail will see sense and decide to be a responsible landowner and actually commit to sustainable ecological practices and find alternative ways of making sure that the rail track is safe, that doesn't involve destroying wildlife.
So you do it all again?
Oh, of course. At the drop of a hat.
It was a victory.
It was more than a victory. It was a beautiful moment of justice for this town and hopefully for other communities up and down this country, because it isn't going to end here. This is just the beginning.
La patria cubrirán su paso ya, anuncia el porvenir, de pie cantar, el pueblo va a triunfar, millones ya imponen la verdad, de acero son, ardiente batallón, sus manos van, llevando la justicia y la razón, mujer, con fuego y con
And it was at that time that I began to suspect that... Darling, we're filming!
Sorry.
Shall I start again, Johnny?
con fuego y con valor, ya estás.
the long nights spent in frustration wondering how on earth we would ever beat this, what seemed like an unstoppable monolith of a company.
Okay. Rewind that. Oh, that's nothing.
So tired. I cried when I talked about this.
Yes,
song
I
as well.
heard you. Yes.